Project Never Balanced is a game that is aiming for a large target audience by leaving the main character androgynous, so every potential player can see themselves within the character, hopefully adding to immersion. The game is not only aimed at both male and female gamers, it aims for a large range of ages by having both a story with a bit of comedy or a story with a bit more of a serious tone to it. The story of the game is you wake up in your bedroom naked, and all your clothes are missing, keeping the character androgynous, and you are locked in your room, and you have been for 2 days. It is up to the player to find out why. There are 4 scenarios why the character would be locked in the room, and that depends on how you answer questions given to you by an unknown entity you communicate with in your dreams. The 4 scenarios are: you are a ghost and you don't know it. You have been locked into your room by someone outside. You are dead and the room you are in is purgatory. Or the character has gone insane and the whole thing is a hallucination. With each scenario unlocked by answering the questions, there are 3 endings, and this depends on what you find and do within the room. The 3 endings will be a good ending where the player is happy for the character or something silly would happen. A neutral ending where the player doesn't really feel accomplished, and a bad ending where the player will feel bad or sad about the outcome of the story. The concept of the game is of first person with typical controls, but with a few other functions, such as being able to kneel, go on all fours and stand on your toes. This gives the player the ability to look in every nook and cranny. The reason these controls are necessary is so the player can examine every item in the room, useful or not. This is also one of the selling points of the game. The idea for everything being interactable is both to confuse and intrigue the player. Have you ever played a game with an item that is needed to solve a puzzle and the item had no significance whatsoever? An example of this is in Silent Hill for the PlayStation 1. When the player is in the school, there is a rubber ball item that can be picked up. There are hundreds of items in the school. Why would the player pick this up? So if the player can interact or even pick up almost every item within the game, they will have to think about what is important rather than the game telling them you need this. Once the player has finished the game, they can go back to the beginning and try a different scenario or a different ending for the scenario they've already played, giving the game a lot of replay value. An example of this is a game called Heavy Rain. Within Heavy Rain, depending on actions you took in the game resulted in your ending, but the story was always the same. If the story was potentially different each time with each ending, the player will have multiple different stories to play, giving much more replay value than the usual typical pick-a-path game. This game has the potential to be a realistic story, a fantasy story, a horror story, a bit of a comedy story, as well as an action story, thereby appealing to a much broader audience.